Cloud.
Looking forward together. This is the Thriving Now community. Thank you all for being here. And to those of you that'll be tuning in later, I invite you to imagine that you're here with us live and to play along and to engage and enjoy this sense that you're not alone. I'm not alone. We're not alone in having dreams and desires that we want to move forward with, that we want to look forward to. And one of the things about something that matters to our heart is that there's almost always feelings, emotions. Some of those can feel like resistance, and some of those can feel like that longing that almost can have a sharp edge to it. And sometimes it can feel like that power that you really want to ground and activate in you to give you energy to move forward with that which matters to you. I'm Rick from Thriving Now, and I'm here with Kathy Bartuli from the Intimacy Dojo and Thriving Now. And I appreciate getting a chance to co-create with you on this.
Oh, I love it. Rick, you've been one of the most inspiring people in my life, and I'm so honored to share this space with you. And I'd like to invite people, if you would, like this, we're doing something which a lot of people do at the end of the year, beginning of the new year, they look at what they want to create, but we're in kind of a unique situation. When our body and our system has seen a lot of traumatic experiences or a lot of overwhelm, which many of us have experienced in 2020, um, it can go into a freeze mode, and it can be really hard to daydream or to reach forward. And that is a protective mechanism for our system. And often we'll go through it individually. We'll go through 3, 4 years ago. I was in the hospital. I had pneumonia. I was in the ICU, and I literally couldn't walk when I got home. Walking from my couch to the front door to open the door for someone, I had to sleep for half an hour afterwards. I was exhausted. My system went into a kind of shutdown hibernation mode. I wasn't wishing I could go to the movies with friends. I wasn't wishing I was back at work. I was just kind of existing. And we're in a collective, many of us are in a collective hibernation mode. So while I was getting better, I could see other people doing fun things. And I was like, gradually it kind of drew me out of it. But here, many of us are in this kind of collective hibernation mode, and we're looking around and we're not seeing anybody having daydreams. It's hard to daydream when we don't know when we're going to be out of this. It actually kind of hurts sometimes. Like Rick said about that edge that we have, like that longing with an edge. So, what we're trying to do here is going to be a little bit different than most of us have experienced in previous years. We want to, our body will naturally shut us down, because if I was constantly struggling to get out of the house and longing, it would be wasting energy those years ago. And right now, if all of us were like chomping at the bit to get out, even though we might have like wishes of that, we're kind of, many of us are shut down because we know there's no place to go right now. So if we can, we want to be gentle with ourselves, but we don't want to stay down there. Like that kind of hibernation is very useful, but we want to be able to come out when it's spring, when we're able to go out. And so one of the things we want to do here is help us find dreams that feel realistic, that our system can go, oh, that's something I can work towards. That's something I can feel good about. Because then when the hibernation time is over, we'll be able to step out much more gracefully and effectively. Does that make sense to everyone? We don't want to, and this can happen. People kind of give up. We see people retire and they just kind of give up, and they're just like, a lot of them pass away pretty quickly. They're not looking for that dream or that next step. And we want you to have really juicy, delicious lives. So we want to help you find dreams that feel really authentic to you. This is a beautiful time to go deep in that, because we have the
There was,
quiet.
mhm. I, uh, I believe it was from Seth Godin. I read a lot of him, and he was talking about awareness and how awareness, where you put your awareness, changes it. That especially if you're bringing a consciousness and an intention behind it. And that was my hope, is that together we could do that today, and also to continue this. Um, thrivingnow.center is a new place, opened just a week or so ago, for us to share and continue this conversation. You got the information to be here and to look at the replay on that site. And if you haven't joined and signed up, I invite you to do so. It's free. And I want to cultivate this as an ongoing practice for those that really, you know, the things that matter most to me are all co-creations. They're all things that are done together. And so thank you for being here, taking this time to be in community and circle. I invite us, I used to always think about life like a pyramid, wonder why, right? It's the dominant culture, and who's ever at the top of the pyramid, gets to dominate. That was the model. And one of the things that the together energy that I like is that of a circle. If you've ever sat in a circle, it feels very different than sitting in an audience in ranks and having someone else up on stage. And so even though we've got the Brady Bunch thing going on with the Zoom squares, if you're looking at that, or I invite us to just take a moment. And as you take a breath, you feel into your own space where you are. Feels right to you putting your hand over your heart. It's you, your heart, your mind, your body, your bones, your blood, your breath, your pulse, the rhythm of you. And allow yourself to be aware that there are people all over the world, small group, but we cover a lot of ground, who are also here right now with their pulse, their rhythm, their heart, with things that matter to them. And there's some overlap, and there's some unique differences. And we embrace in the circle our unique vantage point. Kathy and I, we view ourselves as hosts and facilitators. We bring what we have, our vantage points. And it's true that we get a lot of the airtime, but we want this experience to give you some airtime too. And that's also why the community center was designed too. So feeling the circle. Yeah. And please take care of yourself. If you need to exit, know that you continue to have an energetic space, as long as you want. So,
And we have the thrivingnow.com/grounding. There's grounding exercises there. They're free. You can download the PDF, see which ones work for you if you start feeling kind of triggered or upset. Like, we're going to be talking about this next year, and there's a lot of uncertainty. So our survival brain is kind of like, I don't know, and that can bring up some like uncertainty. Doesn't feel good to our survival brain. It wants to know that we're going to go to the garden, we're going to pull the carrots, we're going to have the whatever we can get, routinely get what we need. And right now many of us are lacking in social connection and the looking forward to. That's one of my favorite things, is to plan something really fun and just kind of use it as a touchstone when I'm going through my day, like, oh, this fun thing is coming up. And it's really hard to create that for us ourselves on the scale that we're used to. So if feelings come up, please know that you're welcome here. Tears and laughter are welcome here, and you get to be where you are. So I would like, if it's okay, Rick, I think it's just important to acknowledge that what our brain is often doing for many of us, that kind of hibernation or like quiet feeling, it's really protective. And I know I sometimes rail at like, oh, stupid brain, stop doing that. But it's actually there to help us. So if it's okay, if it feels good to you, take a nice, slow, deep breath. Feel your butt in the chair. Feel your body here and now. And if you want to, see all these people here that are in the same space. Karate chop. Hey, survival brain.
hey, survival brain.
I know it's been a really rough year.
It's been a really rough year.
And it's going to be tricky for probably 6 more months.
Yeah, and I sense it's still going to be tricky for a while.
I want to let you know
I want to let you know
that even though I sometimes get grumpy with you,
that even though I sometimes get grumpy with you,
I do know that you're trying to help me.
I do know you're trying to help me,
And I appreciate all that you're doing.
and I appreciate all that you're doing.
Top of the head. This has been a hard one to figure out.
This has been such a hard one to figure out.
There's no books to read about this.
There's no books to read about this.
Side of the eye. I never experienced this particular thing before.
I never experienced this particular thing before.
Under the eye. And I know you're doing your best for me.
And I know my primitive brain is doing the best that it can for me.
Under the nose. We'll get through this together.
We'll get through this together.
Chin. And might be a really good time to get quiet with myself.
And this might be a really good time to get quiet with myself.
Collarbone, and figure out my path that's authentic to me.
And figure out my path that's authentic to me.
Under the arm. Let's use this time as well as we can.
Let's use this time in this life as well as we can.
Top of the head. Thank you for all that you do for me.
Thank you for all that you do for me.
Take a nice slow deep breath.
If it feels good to you, remember that providing comforting touch to a part of our body that's maybe under strain, doing a lot, our primitive brain is having to integrate all kinds of different real threats and alarms, false alarms, all kinds of things. And the primitive brain exists throughout every cell of the body, and there's centers of it that are at the top of the spine, where it first enters the brain, all the signals from the rest of us, all of our gut feelings, all of our sensors about what's happening around. The emotional energy comes in through so many different channels, not just through eyes and ears, nose.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to ask the question, what would you, each of us, you like to create going forward? If we're looking forward. And I'm also drawn to invite that if you're really clear on an image of what you'd be doing, that you include what the emotions that you're wanting. So, I'm going to do this, and fill in the emotional landscape if you can. And if you don't have an idea of what it's going to look like you couldn't architect it, you can't map it out, I don't know. Feel into what matters to you emotionally. And by emotionally, I don't necessarily mean happy, sad. Emotionally can be things like connection. Is that an emotion? It's certainly palpable. Like when if I look out at the people that I know here and other people that I'm getting to know, there's a sense of like, oh, hi. Yeah, I haven't seen your face before. There's a curiosity. Is that an emotion? Yes. In our world, in the emotional world we talk about, in emotional freedom. So if things have been a little flat, but you're wanting more curiosity and wonder, it's okay to pause there in this work and not necessarily be clear on what that's going to look like. In our journey here today, some of those ideas may become clearer, and putting our awareness on an emotional states that matter to us, that would be nourishing, is really, I think, the core foundation.
And I think that one of the things I love the exercise you did when we first started, where you invited us to be connected with our hearts. Sometimes when I'm making plans for the next year, I'll get very much in my head and very social, like, oh, people would approve of me if I did this, or this is what, society would push for,
Yeah.
versus what feels aligned. Like, I want to stay connected. And one of the ways I really love to do this is I imagine that we're all here a year from now. We have a call a year from now. We're all gathering together. And as you look back on the year that just passed, what would you have liked to have experienced or done that would be leaving you feeling really heart connected and happy with the year that you just used? So it's a different way of looking at the same thing. And I love Rick's emphasis on the experience that you want to have, because it might be that, I might be like, I want to have I'm going to write a program with Rick, and I'm going to do this thing with someone else. And the person may not come through, but the experience can. What is the experience I want to create? Helping people, collaborating. So if you have something to write with, and just if you can connect with, just get connected with your heart right here, right now. And whether you want to look at it, what do I want to create in the next year? Or looking back a year from now, what do I want to have experienced or done? We're just going to give you a couple minutes just to write that down. And I encourage you to write it down or type it, because that will anchor it. I know I always do. I'm going to write it down later. It's never the same experience. You want to anchor it. And take some risks. Write down things you're not sure about, because once you write them down, you can change them. But try them on, explore. That helps us get out of our ruts. So give you a couple minutes just to write. If you feel blocked, just keep writing. The continuous writing, like I don't know what to write, is a good, just keep writing, can help you ground into that. What were you going to say, Rick? I think you were about to say something. No? Okay.
Just ready.
Okay. Give you people another 30 seconds or so to write things down. Realize sometimes the best ideas come right at the deadline. That's why one reason we give you a deadline like this. Your brain's like, oh wait, don't leave this out. Okay, final 10 seconds. You don't have to be grammatically correct or anything. Just write down the ideas so that you can grok on them. All right. Rick.
Should we, it feels like it's time for a breakout room to give
Yes.
that a try, connect people.
Yeah. So do you want to do the gossip game or just have them share?
I think just sharing, take, so what, 3 or 4 people in a room or 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that 3 or 4 people is good, because that way if one person can't join, there's still people to connect.
Yeah. And so we we really believe in consent. If sharing is not where you're at, just nod that to your breakout group and the others can use the time. What, 4 to 5 minutes?
Yeah, we'll give you about, take a little time, coordinate it. We're going to invite you to pick the person with the longest hair to go first.
That won't be me.
That'll be Rick. So in your breakout group, go ahead and you're going to share, each of you, about a minute, what you want to experience in the next year. If you don't want to share, that's fine. You can pass and give a little more time for other people. But as you're sharing, notice what you feel in your body. And if you're listening, try to stay open and curious with your body. One of the things I used to always do is I'd be planning what I was going to say while someone else is speaking. I invite you, if you can, just to be present with what they're saying. Something they say may spark a whole new avenue for you, or an awareness, or like, oh, I thought I wanted this, but I actually want this. So this is a really beautiful exercise in generosity. So as you're sharing, be present. Notice if something feels off or it feels right, or you want to change something. And if you're listening, be open and curious and notice what will come up. So I'm going to send an invitation for the breakout rooms. Monitor yourself. We'll give you about 5 minutes or so, about a minute to get situated, a minute each to share, and then pass to the next person. And I'll give you some notice as we go what the time is. So you will be invited to these. This is not recorded. So go ahead. You should have an invitation in front of you to join rooms.
Not yet.
Okay, open all rooms.
There we go.
Go. Okay. All right. Just checking to see where we're at. Those are all good. That's good. Okay, so I'm gonna move. Is everyone that's here staying here? Move to room 4. Oh. All right, and I'm gonna assume that the people that are still here are gonna stay here, and that's fine. Oops, let's see, one person. There it goes, okay. All right, and we're just, if you're here and you want to say something, you're welcome to. Otherwise, we're just hanging out here while they're in their room. And set the timer. Sorry, I can't hear you, Ali. We'll figure out when you go to breakout room. You may want to look and see just to the right side of the microphone. There's a little up arrow. You may want to see if your microphone is what microphone you're using. Everyone will be back in 15 seconds. And yeah. All right. Looks like everyone is back. Nice. All right. Does anyone want to share how it was for them?
Yeah, so in order to share, you'd have to go over to the participants tab, and there should be something that says raise hand on the telephone. That's star 9.
And I can see most people are on video too. So, oh, I see. Let's see, Brenda. I sent you an ask to unmute. Can you unmute on that, Brenda?
Yeah, there we go.
Yay!
I did
Hi,
the
Brenda.
old fashioned, put the hand up.
I can see you, so it's good.
Um,
What did you experience?
it was lovely being able to share it. I agree with what you say about like saying the words. So I did share, and I don't know if you want me to share again. But one thing that kind of came up for me, like it all felt good, but then I sort of questioned, I'm like, who is that too much?
Mm,
Like it adds a lot of pressure, right?
okay.
That, oh, I got to get all this done, or I got to achieve this. So that's kind of what came up for me. Do I share my list or not? Just
If you want, would you want to share the one that feels most dear to you? That way it'll be a beautiful anchor in front of the group. You don't have to share your full list.
I'm not sure which one. It's kind of like connection, belonging. Those kind of go together,
Okay.
and freedom. So, which is really, I'm sure, everybody's anthem for 2021. Freedom and then more connection and belonging. But it's kind of,
I suspect there's a lot of people that have overlap into that, and like I said, I think there's a lot of uniqueness too. Just before we go to the next person, Brenda, if you don't achieve that, whatever that means to your psyche, what would you think you feel? Where's the downside of having these kinds of aspirations?
because that energy of how you say like achieve, I have to achieve these, then I would feel like, like, I didn't achieve it. So I'm not like, a star student, almost like, well, disappointment, a bit of a failure because I didn't achieve everything. Yeah, like yucky stuff.
Yeah, thank you. We're going to do some tapping on that.
Yeah.
All right, Brenda, thank you. And Beth.
Hey, sorry for the video earlier. Thanks for taking my hand. I wanted to say thank you for the breakout group too. I took a wide approach and realized I needed to chunk it out. You've never seen that, Rick, right? So on me, but I said that I want to be the best version of me, referencing in my mind the pain that I've been having mostly on my right side. And then I realized that I needed to put some weight to it. So each day I'm going to do something that actualizes my life somehow that I haven't been able to get to because of the pain or this or the other thing. And it was lovely to be in the breakout group and to witness someone else's story. And the borrowing benefits was just so rich and important to me as well.
Good.
Beautiful. Thank you, Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and mute you.
Anyone else want to wave their hand? Oh,
I see
yeah.
Anne. And did I see? Did you? Well,
Yes, when you were talking with, was it Beth at the beginning? I'm scanning to see who that was at the beginning. What came up for me in terms of which one felt most important is the one about creating ease and flow in my financial life. And the reason that one felt most weighty to me is because the other things that are on my list, I have done before. I have altered relationships, I have improved my health and so on. And so this one, there's this, despite all my years of tapping and teaching others, it's still back in there saying, but you haven't made it happen before. What makes you think you can do it this time? So that's the squirrel, the hamster in the back of my mind that I'm just mindful of. I'm like, oh, okay, there you are. thanks, but no thanks.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I do imagine hearing this. Like, I often feel like I'm alone. I'm the only one who feels these things. And I hear someone else share it. I'm like, but of course, this, Anne could obviously do this. It's not that hard. And then I can borrow it for myself. So thank you for sharing that, Anne.
Yeah, thank you.
I see Sasha.
Hello. A couple of things come up for me. First, it's hard for me to plan anything because of my health challenging. It's constantly like present. And another thing, like when I'm thinking about making art or creating something, I feel like I don't have emotional energy.
Mm.
So I feel it would be helpful to other people too.
Yeah.
And groups was amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Thanks, Sasha. And I think, whether we have health things or our hibernation brain or whatever it is like, I notice it's hard for me to plan. Like, I have really great days where I get a lot done, and I have other days where I sit on the couch and drool, and the fact that I'm not in bed still feels like a success. So, and that's not contending with Margot's and other people's health issues. Like, it's a lot. Oh, sorry, not Margot. Sasha. I was looking at Margot. I saw Sasha. But like, we struggle with these things. And someone asked, can you define hibernation brain? That's my own definition. It's just like our brain, our survival brain is like, there's no place to go. There's nothing. Like, if we're very ill or in the middle of a pandemic, often our hopes and dreams get kind of suppressed. We're kind of like, I'm just going to make it through this. And the whole point is, it's fine to do that when we need to, but we want to be able to expand out of it when it's okay. And I do see people kind of get stuck in that space. They're kind of frozen in hibernation, as opposed to, okay, yeah, the feeling why bother is a very strong one. That's a great way for our survival brain to suppress our energy. And it's not bad necessarily. When I was really ill, I didn't want to be like fretting and struggling to get to do things. I needed to rest. I needed to be quiet and still and let my body heal. During the pandemic, people have kind of been quieter, more content just to watch TV or do quiet things. Why get showered or dressed? There's no place to go. Yes. Like someone said on Facebook, when I can't remember the last time I washed my hair, it's time for me to wash my hair. Like, things are different right now. And I think it's really important to take off the blame and the shame of like being in hibernation, but also to be ready to notice, okay, what can I step out into? Is it safer now for me to do things rather than just staying? I don't want us a year from now to be like still in hibernation brain. I'd like us to be out creating things. And also, I think that I noticed a friend is planning something for August, which I think might be safe. And I noticed I was like, oh, that's really fun. That's something exciting to look forward to. And my brain started going, what can I do now to make that easy to go to? Like, what can I do to kind of, and it gave myself a direction and a hope to go towards. And it felt really good.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I heard that things that I'd like to do some tapping on. Would you like
Absolutely.
the being aware of the blockages? So as we've shared, tuning into like, okay, for that, someone mentioned like, oh, but I've never done the financial ease and flow before. That would be an awareness of an energy that's saying, And one of the things we know about energy work is that, well, I think there was a hope, and I occasionally, like, that part of us will just go quiet and never annoy us again. What I've noticed more often is that by honoring and respecting whatever that is, but giving a boost, like in the setup statement and tapping, there's well, even though I've never done this before, and a part of me is reminding me of this, thanks so much. I'm really going to put some energy and attention into whatever that matters to me. So I'd like to do some tapping on that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it sounds lovely. Thank you.
Okay. Even though a part of me is aware,
Even though part of me is aware,
it's uncomfortable.
it's uncomfortable.
I have these dreams.
I have these dreams.
I have these desires.
I have these desires.
And there's some protection that's kicking in.
And there is some protection that's kicking in.
There's some resistance that's kicking in.
There's some resistance that's kicking in.
I accept where I am and how I feel right now.
I accept where I am and how I feel right now.
Top of the head. These things matter to me.
These things matter to me.
Eyebrow. And there's some protection kicking in.
And there is some protection kicking in.
Side of the eye. There's some resistance kicking in.
There is some resistance kicking in.
Under the eye. There's that self-doubt I was taught.
There is the self-doubt I was taught.
And I hear them in the background.
And I hear them in the background.
No, 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 no.
Oh.
Yeah, I accept these parts of me.
I accept these parts of me.
And they're not all of me.
And they are not all of me.
They're things that matter to my heart.
There are things that matter to my heart.
Under the arm, there are things that matter to me.
There are things that matter to me.
Top of the head. And I'm consciously choosing to channel my energy to them.
And I'm consciously choosing to channel my energy to them. Can I just lead off some tapping from that right from there?
Go for
Karate
it.
chop. Hey, primitive brain.
Hey, primitive brain.
Thank you for reminding me of these obstacles.
Thank you for reminding me of these obstacles.
I get that you're trying to protect me.
I get that you are trying to protect me.
And I know we've never done this particular thing before.
And I know we've never succeeded at this particular thing before or done it.
Especially at this level.
And not at this level.
And I want to try it this time.
I really want to try it this time.
And I'd like to do it together.
And I'd like to do it together.
Top of that, I don't want to fight you.
I don't want to fight you.
Eyebrow, that doesn't work well.
That doesn't work well.
Side of the eye, there's too much internal conflict.
There's so much internal conflict.
Under the eye, we've never done this before.
We've never done this before.
Under the nose, and I bet we can do it together.
And I bet we can do it together.
Then all we have to do is start taking baby steps.
Yeah. All we have to do is start taking baby steps.
Collarbone, we don't have to do it overnight.
We do not have to do it overnight.
Under the arm, we can learn how to do this together.
We can learn how to do this together, the experience of it.
Yeah, top of the head. And maybe we'll make a few mistakes.
Of course, we'll make some mistakes.
Get this together.
But we can do this together.
Take a nice slow deep breath. And just notice what your body is bringing up in your mind. Like if you're having specific blocks or thoughts, write them down. This is gold. This is the stuff that you need to tap on. So just because there's objections coming up, it doesn't mean they're true, but your system is bringing them up as the ammunition, the evidence that you can't do that. But those are the very things you most need to clear. And realize that our survival brain really wants to help us, but it's not always accurate. It made a lot of its decisions when we were very young, and it didn't have a lot of experience. And it learned things from our parents and our teachers who were often struggling. So one of my biggest things is I think I'm a bad person. I'm constantly afraid that I'm a bad person. When I was very little, I often felt bad. I was being abused and sexually abused. So I felt bad inside. I took that as evidence. My survival brain decided that I am a bad person because I feel bad. And yet I don't think you people would be here if you thought I was a bad person. And I really do. I know in my heart that as Rick and I often say before the calls, please let us be of service. So realize that what your survival brain may be telling you, it's really doing its best. It's trying to help you, but it may have interpreted things wrong. And that's one thing I love most about tapping, is by tapping, we can help the cognitive, the thought part of our brain go in and clear up the mess that our survival brain, doing its best, came up with when we were little. So if you're, just because you feel like it's scary or feel like it's not possible, it doesn't mean it's true. It's something you decided early on. So thank you so much for tapping on that, Rick.
Mm-hmm. I'm feeling drawn to another breakout room.
I'd love that. And we can come back and do some tapping. I want to, when we come back, to tap on the pressure thing, but go ahead, Rick, what were you going to suggest for the breakout room?
What's the noise that you'd like to quiet?
Or
And this
clear?
is, or clear. And it's vulnerable to share that. And there's power in it. It's part of the practice of being together with the part of you that really wants something and the part of you that's saying, but, yes, but. To be able to put that out, if that feels okay for you. If it doesn't feel okay, feel into, just be with that feeling if you can. You're welcome to just tap while you're listening to other people too. I suspect we're sharing a lot of resistance and thoughts and feelings coming up too.
Yeah, and if you can, again, the same spirit of generosity. When you're speaking them, notice how you feel in your body, and know that sharing these out loud is the first step to healing them.
Mm-hmm.
We often spin stuff in our head. It's very hard to stop that spinning in our head when it's just in our head. Writing it down is powerful, but sharing it to other loving beings is very healing. We are social animals.
Yeah.
So, and then when you're listening to other people, notice if it resonates for you. Often we're blind to some of our biggest blocks, and we hear someone else share and we're like, oh, okay, I wasn't even looking at that one. So I'll send you messages in the group, so make sure everyone gets a chance to share. They'll be pop at the top. It'll say 1 minute or whatever. So I'm going to try to do groups of four again, 3 to 4. So we'll give you about 5 minutes, and I'll tell you, like, take a minute to set up, whoever wants to go first, and then go ahead. If you're a little smaller group, you have a little more time to share, but try to make sure everyone has a chance. And I'm opening all rooms. And welcome back, Aurora. Everyone's coming back now. Yay, welcome back. I remember to just restart the recording. How did it feel to hear from other people that you're not alone with some of these struggles? It always helps me. I'm like, oh, I'm not only, because I look at everyone else, and you all look like you have it all together. And when I was in Al-Anon, the saying that really struck me is, I compare my insides, which are all messy, to your outside, which looks all together, and then I feel even more inadequate. And most humans do this. So congratulations on being vulnerable with each other and probably starting a healing process that needed to be shared. So.
Mm-hmm. Anyone like to, if you're on video, we can see you, you can just raise your hand. You'd like to share what that experience was like, Noreen?
Yeah, for the second time in these rooms, I've been the shortest hair, so the last person, and I always get cut off mid-sentence. It's okay. We were very chatty. But what was coming to me, I wanted to quiet my inner critic, who has been brutal these last months. And the saying, I don't know who said it or where I heard it, but I remembered comparison is the killer of joy.
Mm.
So I'm trying not to compare myself to others because I'm where I am. And I'm consciously trying to deal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I do think the negative stuff can be louder when we're alone, kind of facing the fears out there. It turns up the volume often.
Yeah.
Rainbow shared, one of my clients said it so well, comparison is the end of happiness, period. And I think
Yeah.
that's often the case. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Noreen. Jean, do you want to share?
Yeah, I'm having a problem with being able to think more than 6 months ahead. And that's got something to do with my age. And whether it should or it shouldn't, it is. And what I'm working on and practicing is being here now and just doing now, not worrying about the future. It's not always possible, but I'm getting better at it.
Thank you for sharing that, Jean. I do think that that's something that COVID pandemic has turned up for me too. Like, I never really thought I'm too old or it's the end, but I've noticed that coming up more. Like, and I think maybe that's like, you've never been this old. None of us have been this old and in a pandemic before, so we don't know how to calibrate. It's really easy to blame age versus like, this is a brand new experience and nobody knows. Like, I'm not going to buy tickets for anything before August. And even then, I'm going to make sure they're refundable because we don't know. So I thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, well, they're talking about anybody our age or, you know, if you catch it, forget about it. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah,
not
it's not
saying
quite
it
that
right.
bad, but it is. It's yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you're being safe and you're taking care of yourself. So thank you for
Me
sharing.
too. Thank you.
Yeah. Gail? Oh, you're muted. Sorry. Now I can hear you.
Okay. You know what? I'm just going to comment on a structural thing about what we're doing
Oh,
because, you're having us write the things down. I think that was very helpful rather than keeping it in my head, that secured it for me. And then when we shared out loud, that also just moved something within me. And then also listening, to other people, because I could, just opened up possibilities. And also just the example of the person who was in my group, how they hear me or how they listen. I learned so much from that. And then also where you said where the gold is, like what's your resistance? So all of a sudden, I was able to write down exactly, thoughts of resistance from my different points. And it was very helpful. So I just think it's I think it's productive. And so that's why I'm just sharing. I think that process is very helpful.
oh, I'm really glad. Thank you for
I
sharing that.
appreciate
Gail.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I want to appreciate all of you for the courage it takes. Like, it can feel really helpful, but it takes courage. You had to show up for this call. You had to be willing to look inside and then vocalize it to sometimes complete strangers. And then we asked you to look inside and look at your resistance and share that with people you don't necessarily know. It takes a lot of courage. Like, thank you for being willing to play this game. When I say, I have a saying that courage is the price of connection. If we don't exert courage, we're not going to have authentic connection with ourselves or with others. And I think this call is the embodiment of it. And someone said, I find it easier to share with strangers, and that might be the case. Sometimes it's like really scary to tell someone that you're close to, like, I feel scared of this or resistant. So thank you. All right, so do a little more tapping to help clear some blocks, Rick, or where would you like to go?
Yeah, I think that another few tapping rounds, and then let's have some invitations and closing time as
Well,
well.
I was really drawn about the pressure, like it
Yeah.
feels a lot of pressure. So is it okay if I do a little tapping on that?
And if you could include like, oh, this has been on my list for a long time and it hasn't manifested yet.
Yeah.
And that leaves me with certain feelings.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So take a nice, slow, deep breath. If that feels good to you, be present with your body and butt in the chair, feet on the floor. And I'm inviting you back to your body because most of us are pretty smart. We like to live in our heads. Get in your body if you can. Notice the feeling of your fingers tapping on your body as we do this. You can be aware.
Mm-hmm.
Karate chop. I really like my list.
I really like my list.
But it feels like a lot of pressure.
But it feels like a lot of pressure.
Some of these I've had on my list a long time.
Some of these I've had on my list a painfully long time.
And I'm afraid of failing again.
And I'm afraid of failing again.
And I don't want a lot of pressure right now.
And I can't handle a lot of pressure right now.
Some days getting out of bed feels like a big deal.
Some days getting out of bed feels like a really big deal.
Oh, I don't want more pressure.
I don't want more pressure.
Top of the head. What if I changed my invitation?
What if I changed my invitation?
Eyebrow. What if instead of a have to?
What if instead of a have to?
Side of the eye. I let myself be curious.
I let myself be curious.
Under the eye. And let it be a get to.
And let it be a get to.
Under the nose. I wrote down things I desire.
I definitely wrote down things I desire.
Chin. And I may not make it all the way.
And I may not make it all the way.
Collarbone. But sometimes when we shoot for the stars.
Sometimes when we shoot for the stars.
Under the arm, we end up someplace pretty special.
We can end up someplace pretty special.
Top of the head, even if we don't make it all the way to the stars.
Even if we don't make it all the way.
Eyebrow, our desires draw us forward.
Our desires draw us forward.
Side of the eye, and they help spotlight the resistance.
Yeah, thanks. And they help spotlight the resistance.
Under the eye, I want to get rid of and clear out these old resistances.
I want to get rid of and clear out the old resistances.
Under the nose, so these desires are helping me see them.
So these desires are helping me see them.
Chin, and that feels pretty special.
And that feels pretty special.
Collarbone, because if I clear out even 10% of these resistances.
Because if I clear out even 10% of these resistances.
Under the arm, I can make it to the next galaxy.
I don't know if I'd go that far. Well, I never know where I might end up. See, I had some resistance to going out.
Yeah, yeah. Top of the head. I'm really curious what I can create, letting these desires draw me forward.
I'm really curious what I can co-create by letting these desires draw me forward.
Take a nice, slow, deep breath. And just notice what's coming up again. This is a great time to jot down, well, that's great for you, or I can't be allowed to have that, or I don't deserve it, or my sister would be jealous. Whatever those thoughts are, especially if they're not logical. If you're like, this is ridiculous, why would I think this? It's probably stored in your survival brain, and it's the illogical ones that we can't think our way out of. That's where tapping is most powerful. Because if it was logical, we can kind of argue with ourselves and talk ourselves into the way we want to be. But it's those hooked, illogical things. Our cognitive brain's like, I don't know what to do with this. And we're stuck. And then we tap.
Yeah, and some of them are artifacts of old traumas, ancient artifacts that come to the surface. And you're like, oh, okay. And I'm speaking to people that have a lot of different levels of experience with this type of work. Resistance is really a natural process. It is not a defect. It is just like Kathy was talking about the hibernation. We're not meant, to willpower through things that look and feel impossible to us. But sometimes that look and feel impossible is because of our frame of reference that we inherited, or the traumas that are still frozen and heavy for us. And just really tender that for many people that I deeply care about, including this one whose heart is beating right here, there are things that stand in up front, the resistances, blocks, whatever you call them. And we're not willpower people. I used to use willpower, it nearly killed me. So what's an alternative? Well, having real skills with our emotional body, with the parts of us. And you'll notice early on, I said like, oh, there's a part of me that is resistant, and there's a part of me that it really matters to. Getting used to feeling and knowing that, of course, we have different parts of us that are engaged this way. And developing some skills, so we're not just banging into those parts, but we're working together. So part of the invitation was looking forward together as a workshop inside of your own body, inside of your own skinospheres, like, oh, I'm going to work together with the parts of me that have this desire and the parts of me that want to be safe. And I'm going to look for ways to take micro steps, baby steps, so that I have the experience of it. First is like a whiff of it, a little taste of it, a little more of a taste of it, like ease with money. When you pay for something that matters to you, if resistance comes up, it could be that, what matters to you is a cantaloupe, and you feel resistance around that. You can be together with the resistance and your desire for the cantaloupe and the money and ease things up, relax the resistance.
Yeah, I think of willpower is we're fighting ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we start working with ourselves and and that's part of the energy thing. Like, will I have enough energy to do this?
Mm-hmm. And that goes to activation energy, doesn't it? I mean, I will say that again, we are designed to resist activation energy unless we're really clear. And so it's totally normal, not a defect, to want something. And it's a bit like holding a match. Oh, I want you to be lit. We all know it's not just going to burst spontaneously. It just doesn't. You have to actually strike it with some skill to get it,
some friction,
to activate the energy of it. And sometimes we need to do that. And I believe that for emotional things that matter, one of the ways that we can, take our energy and move it with each other, it matters. In my group, there was someone that shared that she's really tired. It feels heavy to always be the starter, And what's interesting is I'm a responder. Like, I naturally respond. So interestingly, oh, she wants someone to start more. Well, I can respond to that and be more starting, It's weird, isn't it? But we are meant to mesh together to hear people. And I know that for a lot of us, our desires may be falling on deaf ears or unfertile ground. And if this type of thing is useful to you, please know that we want to cultivate more of this. We have the Thriving Now Circle. It's on a gliding scale. You can get a 2-month gift membership, emotional support membership, if that's what you're needing right now. And our other memberships are on gliding scale so that you can find the sweet spot for your energetic support of the community. We meet in Zoom rooms 8 to 10 times a month. It's very generous. We also have this new, you can call them a forum, but it's really designed to be a community center, where places where people can come and engage and continue the conversation. Tomorrow and the next day and the next day, resistance may come up. Your desires may clarify. Where do you share that? I really hope that you have many places where you get to share that. If that's not true, we have at least one. And if there's something that matters to you that you'd like to cultivate within community, I'd love to have you join. thrivingnow.center. It's free to join. Just click the sign up button and you can share with us. You'll get a sense of what we're talking about, even though it's fresh and new.
Yeah.
Thank you
I
for
love
listening
that.
to that, because these are things that matter to me.
And I think it's so important to be in community when when we run into resistance, the people, the regular people, like the earthlings, the people that don't know about tapping and working with ourselves, a lot of them are in their primitive brain, their reactive primitive brain, and they've been taught to use willpower. And when I was using willpower, I would say, I'm going to exercise, I'm going to go 2 miles every day, and I'm going to increase by 5% once a week. And there was no off days. And there was often like, am I going to have an energy to do this? Versus
Yeah.
I'm going to be with myself and I'm going to clear resistance and I'm going to invite myself forward and I'm going to take baby steps forward and see what feels right for me today, which is very organic and healthful and sustaining. And I need to be around people that remind me of that.
Yeah.
So can we just do a little tapping on, will I have the energy? Because I think that's a lot what people need to be reminded of.
Have
I
the
know I
energy
do.
and allowing it to focus itself around
Yeah.
things that matter. Yeah, go ahead.
Karate chop. Even though I'm not sure I'm going to have the energy to do all these things.
Even though I'm not sure I'm going to have the energy to do all these things.
I've struggled this last year.
I've struggled this last year.
And other times too.
And other times too.
I wonder if I was using my willpower.
I wonder if I was using my willpower.
They say we only get 15 minutes of willpower a day.
They say we only get 15 minutes of willpower a day.
No wonder I ran out of energy.
No wonder I ran out of energy.
I was trying to fight myself.
I was trying to fight myself.
I was trying to force myself to get things done.
I was trying to force myself to get things done.
Top of the head, what if I did it differently this time?
I'm devoted to doing it differently this time.
Eyebrow, what if I let go of willpower?
What if I let go of willpower?
Side of the eye, and figured out what my system really needs.
And figured out what my system really needs.
Under the eye, I can take a baby step or two.
I can take a baby step or two.
Under the nose, and then just feel into it.
And feel into it.
Chin, I can tap on the resistance.
And I can tap on the resistance.
Collarbone, I can share with others where I need inspiration.
I can share with others when I need inspiration.
Under the arm, I don't have to do it alone.
I do not have to do it alone.
Top of the head, and I don't have
sometimes
to
been convinced of that.
Top of the head, and I don't have to do it the same way I've done it in the past.
And I do not have to do it the same way I've done it in the past.
Maybe I have the energy to work with myself.
Maybe I have the energy to work with myself.
Nice, slow deep breath.
Uh,
And just notice how that feels. Like your body may feel different, but my body feels like, oh, that feels so nice compared to like these lists that I would make where I was going to force myself and I would try for weeks, sometimes months, but then I would like miss a day and beat myself up and then just, oh, I'm a failure. I failed at it again. Versus like, how can I create something towards this today? Whether it's tapping to reduce the resistance, exploring an idea, like what, there's lots of little things we can do around our dreams to help line them up.
Another Seth Godin quote, be assertive on behalf of ideas that matter. And I would include like an idea, a notion, something that matters to you. You sense it. And to allow your energy to assert itself around an idea, an experience that matters to you. The chat is open. If you'd like to share a thought, a word, you're welcome to do that. If there's someone that we haven't heard from yet that would like to raise their hand, we have time for maybe 1 or 2 short shares as well as we bring this to a close. You can also raise your hand on the participants tab.
And while we're seeing if anyone wants to step forward, I'd love it if you take just a minute to appreciate yourself for being here. So like just notice your butt in the chair, however you're sitting, and just be with your body for a minute. some part of you made the decision to show up here today. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And if you can, maybe close your eyes and just be with yourself and just like, wow, it's a Sunday. I could have taken a nap or watched a rerun on TV. And instead I chose to do something that helped me connect with other people and to dream, to clear some blocks. See if you can send yourself some appreciation. See if you can let that kind of fill your heart with like, wow, I did something pretty nice for myself today no one was making me do it. It was my choice to be here. I did something good for me. Just breathe that in. And shake out your hands if that feels good. But I think it's important to notice when we do things for ourselves and appreciate ourselves. Aurora, do you want to unmute?
From in the introductions, you said we are all hibernating, but I have the opposite situation. I'm in my manic phase where I cannot stop. I pick up projects, I adopt children, I adopt everything, and I'm constantly I'm never bored because I don't have time to be bored. So if you can involve a situation where you can help somebody who's manic all the time. I mean, my baseline is manic personality, and then triggers make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have something like finding a different set point as an intention for the looking forward?
Yes. I want surety that we're all going to make it, because I feel if there's a little more I can do, just keep doing it. But in the process, I need to sleep and I can't. So I want this community to be the whole world, where we all have each other's back and we're all in this together. That I don't feel that that I cannot stop, because if I stop, then the whole world is going to fall apart.
That sounds like the other side, the flip side of the coin for the primitive brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. See, we had tuned to an aspect of that was true for a lot of us, a lot of our clients, that aspect of like, oh, I'm contracting, I'm not able to activate. And yet another human being is really activated. And so that's what I meant by the circle. That's what I meant about looking forward together, that we find and honor that, maybe as we activate and are in a place, that our friend Aurora will feel that more and be able to find her sweet spot. We resonate and find balance. There are people that naturally have a lot of oomph, a lot of growth, a lot of things. I think of you, Kathy, your capacity. And like for each of us, finding our sweet spot is, to me, what thriving is. And that's going to look and feel differently.
Yeah, and what Aurora's talking, what you're sharing about, like, I think that's still the survival brain is trying to do a lot. So again, the same product process we're using with everyone here, like that might be in hibernation brain. It's like, okay, thank you so much for trying to do so much. Like, I get that you're trying to save me, you're trying to help me. We don't need to do that much anymore. And that's one of the things, the gifts I think that we might be able to take from this time is a time to slow down and just look at what we really want to do. Whether we're hyper or hypo active, it's okay to like, hey, what is right for me? What does my heart feel aligned with? versus just doing a lot. And I think it's really easy in normal everyday life. Like before the pandemic, for many of us, it was like we're on this treadmill and we're going, 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 and there's just momentum. And it's hard to just go, can I slow down? Can I stop? Can I check in with myself? And choose this rather than the knee-jerk reaction that many of us are running on adrenaline or willpower will experience. So whatever side of the coin we're on, slowing down, thanking our survival brain, and just checking in to ourselves a little more, that's a real beautiful way to go forward. And if you want more support, I love the center. For years, Rick had a forum and the technology got outdated, but it was one of the most beautiful spaces I've ever been in for healing. And I love that he's creating something where we can share and connect. And the circle is just a beautiful place to get lots of support. So if those feel right to you, I encourage you to check them out and to join in. Wherever your primitive brain is, there's lots we can do to help it kind of align. And instead of fighting it all the time, we're start to collaborate together, and we're so much more powerful that way.
Yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you for being here.
Looking forward together. Thank you so much. Kathy, would you close the recording, and that way anyone that we can set it so that they can